We're going to talk about Helen Andelin, and now she's telling us about a man's pride and how women wound a man's pride. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to The Morning After. This is a show where we talk about anything from current events to trends, social issues, you name it. Think of it as a cup of coffee in the morning with a neighbor on the porch before the traffic starts moving. I'm Miss Margaret, and we are going to have a little chat this morning. We're sort of in the middle of a conversation, but you can join us anyway. You don't have to go all the way back to number one, although I would love for you to watch all of the previous episodes. So we are talking about Fascinating Womanhood, and the author, Helen Andelin, her perspective on a woman's role, and asking the question of what her advice holds for women in the 21st century. Is it relevant? Is it irrelevant? Is it outdated thinking? Can we take the parts we like and run with that, or do we have to take this whole pie? If you're just joining us for the first time, come on in. We're harmless. We just want to have a chat over a cup of coffee. We're at it again this morning. How are you doing? You okay? I have to stop and ask that sometimes. People don't ask each other how they are anymore. They just get down to business, and then on their way out, they say, and by the way, how you doing? I do that sometimes. I think I'm guilty of it. I woke up this morning thinking about what I should say. I know I said I would have a script from now on and forevermore. I don't have a script. I'm really speaking off the top of my head because I don't know how to organize and compartmentalize some of the things that I believe to be true and still remain neutral and still have a conversation with you about it. I got a couple of comments last week. What parts of this are from your own experience? And my answer is this: all of it and none of it. And what makes you talk about this in the way that you do? And my answer is this: if I'm going to endeavor to talk about a book, I have to reflect on personal experience, and I also have to reflect on the personal experiences of others. I'm not an island. I do have friends, I have family, I understand situations that have developed over the years, some for the better, some for the worse, and I'm also bringing that, I got that in my luggage. So it's not that I'm trying to state, this is, tell my story as I'm reading the book. No. What I want to do is talk about the realities of life and some of the common experiences that we might have. Hopefully I've struck it somewhere in the middle with people or with you. We're going to jump right into it. Right now, at this point in my reading, Andelin is talking a lot about a man's pride and the source of his pride, and how that pride plays a crucial role in a relationship. And furthermore, how a woman has control over how much damage is done to his pride within the relationship. The source of a man's pride, according to Andelin, is his physical body, skills, abilities, and achievements. From what I've observed about most men, I would say that's true. I think they are very much proud of their achievements as leaders. I've never considered myself to be a feminist, but in reading this book, it's coming out. It's just oozing, and I can't hide it. It's oozing like toothpaste. It's oozing. She's now talking about his masculine pride. And all I kept thinking the whole time I was reading is, but what about the feminine pride? I need her to give me more to cling to. And I'm not getting it. Her whole idea is that you can cling to this man without recognizing, or at least readily accepting in her writing, that some men are not cut from that cloth and they won't understand what it is you're expecting. Maybe that's a communication issue, I don't know. Maybe it's to do with acceptance of responsibility. Maybe it has to do with the aptitude to accept and manage responsibility. As an example, if I were to substitute masculine for feminine, his for her, just do the whole pronoun swap while I'm reading this, it's going to sound very much in order if you are a woman of any caliber. I believe that women expect this. So I'll read and just realize I've changed the words out, the pronouns, okay? Feminine pride. What is a woman proud of? She is proud of her feminine qualities. She has an inborn pride in her strong physical body, her feminine skills, abilities, and achievements. If any of these feminine traits are weak or missing, her pride will prompt her to obscure this lack from the world as much as she can. She is also proud of her capability as the guide, protector, and provider, and sensitive when not functioning fully in this feminine calling, or when her efforts are not appreciated. So here's my point. Believe me, this is not a tear down on men and men don't deserve. It's not that. I'm saying quite similarly, women deserve. And women have value in this menagerie, in this dancery, as Mary J. Blige would call it. You know, I just, this is the hardest book I've ever had to talk about openly. It was easy when I was reading it for the character in the book, because after all, it was third person. That's she over there, that's her, imaginary people, I'll grant you, but still I could reassign all this to someone else. And I can't seem to want to put this cloak on myself. So this actually is a good point. It's a good talking point from a creative perspective. I'm sorry, commercial break for those creatives in the group. When we are trying to develop a character for writing, and we think we know all about this person, because after all, they're a figment of our imagination, how much more intimately can we know this person? We come up with a physical idea of who this person is, psychological makeup, social habits. We can create a whole person when we're writing. But in this case, I can't just let her take this on by herself, if you understand what I'm saying. I have to now become part of this character and figure out how to present her. And I can now write about her more intensely because I have intense feelings about this thing. And it may not be in agreement with her character, but I have to understand her character. This is a good lesson in a lot of ways. So how does that now, how can we use that information? How can we use that little story I gave you in this context? Just like I had to understand, and I'm still learning the character of Gwen. That's her name in the book, by the way. I'm still bonding with Gwen. I thought I had before, and I never did. I don't think I really did. Not with the way I wrote about her. I think I wrote about her with a certain level of arrogance and disdain. But now that I have an intense feeling, I would say, about Helen Andelin's perspective, I now have another understanding, a different perspective on Gwen. So how can we get a different perspective on our partner? I told you I was going somewhere with these stories of mine. If you think about your partner as a character in your story, how are they made up? And what do they respond to? And what intense feelings are driving you to be in that relationship? And are you developing with the relationship, or are you dragging the relationship through its courses the way you want it to go? As we continue to get to know one another in relationships, I think the dynamic changes quite a bit. At first, you're both running toward each other, and then you find one is trying to get back to some equilibrium, some normalcy in their lives, and maybe the other person feels like that's a pullback, and it's not. People are looking for that ebb and flow, that natural rhythm in relationships. That's my belief. To close, I want to reread that same passage I read earlier, and it is a point of reflection as you continue through this journey with me. And I want us to give it real contemplation. Maybe put the list of the things you don't like about your partner next to the list of the things you like about your partner, and consider this. Masculine pride. What is a man proud of? He is proud of his masculine qualities. He has an inborn pride in his strong muscular body, his manly skills, abilities, and achievements. If any of these masculine traits are weak or missing, his pride will prompt him to obscure this lack from the world as much as he can. He's also proud of his capability as the guide, protector, and provider, and sensitive when not functioning fully in this manly calling, or when his efforts are not appreciated. I'll continue. Status in the world is important to him, impelling him to high achievements. Again, he is sensitive when his status is not recognized or appreciated, or when he fails to achieve the status he seeks. Andelin is going on now to talk about a man's pride, the source of his pride, the source of damage to his pride, whether it is the way he was raised, his environment, or maybe it's his job. She only gives those two examples. But it's clear that she's not separating the man from the experience, and how we as women can inspire him to feel proud and to sort of, groom his pride. It's the way that Helen Andelin feels we can contribute to that. Pretty much ignoring his physicality. That's one. I never thought about that one too much. I figure women are more critical of themselves, so I don't bother about that myself. The second way a woman wounds a man's pride is something that is funny to me. I mean, it's not funny as in humorous, it's ironic. It draws on my personal experience growing up. I remember my dad saying to me, watch a man that you have to keep calling the repairman for. If he doesn't know how to fix it, or he and his buddies don't know how to put it together and get it done, or at least attempt or want to attempt to fix something, then you got the wrong guy. No man, my father would have said, is quick to pick up a phone book and call a repairman unless he just doesn't have any, he's bringing nothing to the table. I don't know that, and I'm honest here. I noticed that in men, even when I don't mean to. I watch a man who doesn't know how to fix anything. I cannot tell you how unimpressive that is. Just honest. So if you are damaging a man's pride, how are you doing it? Because as soon as there's a problem, you go and say, well, we better call a repairman, as if he has no value in solving the problem whatsoever. I can relate to it, I promise you. It's not fair. Honestly, it's not fair. But I get it. The third way a man's pride is wounded is when women are indifferent about their achievements. So whatever big event happened in his day, you shrug or say, yes, that's nice. Oh, really? And you continue to stir the pot of boiling water. The indifference. And I know that some of us do that as women because we're busy thinking about our day and what else is going on in our lives. And typically, human nature just calls and compels us to talk about ourselves first and then say, well, enough about me. How was your day? The expectation here is that you're going to ask him how was his day and listen intently and be an active listener, not just say, yes, okay. Really? Wow. I have the whole script down. Why? Because I've done it before. There are times when you just, mind not in it. Your mind is not in it. Head not in the game. As you can hear and probably see the light changing in here, it's sunrise now and the rooster is on about his business. Andelin goes on to talk about other ways that a man's pride is damaged, but there's one in particular that I want to focus on here and now, and that is the question of his role as a provider. Andelin points out that it is very important that women do not, or wives do not, criticize either, in a backhanded way or directly, a man's provision. Now, what is she talking about here? She's talking about saying things like, we can't afford it. I think that's the one we say the most. I think we'd like to go on vacation this year, but we can't afford it. Oh, I wish we could afford to. Well, how much does that cost? I mean, gosh, can we afford it? Those kinds of things, those statements, those responses, Andelin would say are off the table. Don't even go there. You're to applaud whatever he has provided and allow him to take the steps necessary to either save, set aside, or provide the things that you desire. You being the collective you, not you as an individual. And to give him, put squarely on his shoulders that responsibility of being a provider. So now we have to pause for 21st century talk. Men in the West in particular are not always groomed as providers as much as women probably would prefer. We're now post women's lib era, 70s stuff. Not that women have rights. We get paid a heck of a lot less than the men for the same job, but I won't go there this morning. And in the process, we find that we've given up so much and fought for so much. Related to this point, Andelin is also suggesting that women not seek careers outside of the home. To be there as a homemaker is a full-time job, as she is presenting, and that alone justifies her existence and is deserving of a man's best effort to care for her and his children single-handedly as far as the finances are concerned. So the question now is, what 21st century woman, unless she is married to a man of some serious means, is willing to risk it all to stay home as a homemaker and be beholden to this man for everything from her personal products to a hairdressing or nail appointment to the difference between shoes from Pick and Pay and shoes at Nordstrom. I just have to say it. I just have to say it. I mean, myself, I'll go to the thrift store, but by choice, not because of circumstance, if I can avoid it. It is not my first choice as an able-bodied person to not work and then have to subsist on the crumbs when there's food on the table. I'm reaching for the table. I think I've said enough. I hope there has been enough content here for you to give you some food for thought and to re-examine the why and what for of relationships that you're observing, whether it's your own or someone else's. What do you think about all of this? Do you feel that it is a man's role to provide and a woman's role to simply go along with what he is able to provide single-handedly? Or do you feel that a woman should be outside the home, ideally? And I'm not joking about this. I've been a housewife before, and I've been a working person before. I was able to be a housewife because I controlled the money. That was the piece. And in some cultures, you'll find that is in fact the case. The man works, brings home his earnings to the woman who must manage and be the home economist. And for that reason, she controlled the money. When I was a housewife, yes, I controlled the money as in counting the money. There's a difference. Controlling as in making sure the electricity stayed on. Controlling as in budgeting for food, for toiletries, whatever it is. When you have a partner that is a provider in that capacity, I think it works beautifully. If you are working in the capacity of him controlling the money, therefore controlling all choices without the woman or the partner having a voice, I think that is very unfair. Doesn't matter whose money it is, you both have to live on it. And if I'm going to be compelled to stay home, I have to know that I have some say. Doesn't mean I have equal all the time. Doesn't mean I have 100% all the time. It just means that I have a say. A say is a say. And to be heard. Those things are going to quickly enter the picture, I think, for most people. And finally, if we're talking polygamy, and yes, I'm going there, and I've been in polygamist societies, places, communities, where I've seen that can work, and it always comes back to the money. What one wife gets, the next wife gets. Doesn't have to be identical, but the values have to be the same. I would not suggest to any man that he would take that on. But if you can afford it, and the women are okay with it, and your culture recognizes it, I have no problem with it. None at all. My only concern, as I said, is the cheerfulness of the giver. The cheerfulness of the giver. If you're going to toss it at me and say, here, I hope you're satisfied, we're starting off on the wrong foot already. What do you think? What do you think? What would you suggest is an amicable solution if in fact this is a sticking point? That's my phone, I'm sorry, telling me that I'm late. I have about 29 minutes to upload this video, so I'm going to cut out now. I'll leave you with that information, that insight, that commentary to reflect upon, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.